the Three Kingdoms period, the Warring States period, the Legend of Robin Hood, World War II, some of my favorite historical pieces, some of them being fiction, some of them being real, but none of them to me outclass my favorite fictional historical event, and that is the Arthurian legend. Today we're going to talk about Knights of the Round for the arcade, the very same Knights of the Round, Capcom's arcade beat-em-up from 1991, inspired by the legend of King Arthur and his noble warriors. A game that dares to take a tried-and-true beat-em-up formula and infuse it with medieval combat, RPG mechanics, and intense action. It may not be widely known as one of Capcom's bigger fighters like Final Fight or Captain Commando, but it holds its own unique charm and appeal. But is this game worthy of knighthood? Let's dive in.
Let's do this. Go!
The story of Knights of the Round follows the legendary King Arthur on his quest to retrieve the Holy Grail and bring peace to the land. Joining in are his two most trusted knights, Lancelot and Percival. Each of them has their own combat style and abilities, adding to a bit of variety to the gameplay. The game's narrative is mostly told through brief cutscenes and text, but let's be honest, this is an arcade game from the 90s. You're here to bash enemies, not for an in-depth story, lore, and experience. However, the setting and the character designs do a great job immersing you in the medieval world. At its core, Knights of the Round is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but it incorporates RPG mechanics to keep things interesting. Players choose between Arthur, Lancelot, and Percival, with each different strengths and weaknesses as you progress. You level up your character's armor and weapons, and they visually show on the screen, which is a great touch for a game of this era. The combat is smooth and satisfying, and featuring combos and blocking mechanics and special moves. Unlike many beat-em-ups at the time, the game rewards strategic play and well-timed blocks, preventing damage and allowing for counterattacks. This adds a layer of depth often missing in this type of genre. For an arcade game from '91, Knights of the Round boasts detailed sprite work, vibrant colors, and impressive animations. Each character is well designed, and the backgrounds feature castles, forests, and battlegrounds that help immerse the player in a medieval setting. The soundtrack is a mix of heroic and intense battle tunes that fit the action perfectly. Though none are particularly unforgettable, sound effects are crunchy and impactful, making each sword swing and enemy defeat feel satisfying. Capcom's production quality is evident, even if it's not their most ambitious title. Like most arcade beat-em-ups, Knights of the Round is brutally difficult. Enemies swarm you, bosses hit hard, and the game expects you to master blocking and spacing. Limited continues make things even tougher, especially if you're playing on the console version. But some bosses feel cheap, requiring near perfect timing to defeat without taking massive damage. The game is not for the faint of heart, but with patience, practice, and a lot of quarters, it can be conquered. Or when I say quarters, I mean just hit the button until you get enough lives that you can essentially just bash your head against the wall till you win. Unfortunately, Knights of the Round does not offer as much of post-game rewards, considering this is an arcade beat-em-up from the 90s, so there are no extra modes, no unlockable characters, no alternate endings, and your main incentives for replaying is improving your own skill and trying different characters and competing for the high scores. But the journey itself is rewarding, so don't expect any grand surprises once you reach the end though. While Knights of the Round is a solid beat-em-up, it has its flaws. The difficulty curve can be unforgiving, especially for new players unfamiliar with the blocking mechanic. Enemy variety is somewhat lacking, with the whole palette swap foes appearing frequently. The pacing can feel sluggish at times, particularly when compared to faster-paced games like Streets of Rage or Final Fight. And additionally, the lack of extra content or replay incentive makes it a game that some players might only revisit occasionally. But Knights of the Round may not be the most famous Capcom beat-em-up. It stands out because of its medieval settings, RPG-like progression, and rewarding combat mechanics. The game is a challenge, but it's a fun one, especially with a friend. And if you're a fan of beat 'em ups, arcade classic, or medieval themes, this is definitely worth checking out. However, if you're looking for a deep story, expansive content, and a more forgiving difficulty, you might find yourself frustrated. For me, it's a solid title that deserves recognition, even if it's not quite legendary, but to me, it is very legendary.